All right, people, welcome back. We've got more day two receivers to look at here, and we're starting with Cedric Tillman of the Tennessee Volunteers. Another Tennessee Volunteer receiver, 23 years old, bigger guy. This is one of those taller jump ball guys. 6'3", 213 pounds, 32 and 3/4 inch arms, 10-inch hands, big hands. 4.5440, which is reasonable for his size, I guess. 1.53 10-yard split. 37-inch vert, 10-foot 8-inch broad, and most of the big boards have him in the third, I think. The aggregate has him in the third. There's a little bit of variance, like the Draft Network has him in the second, PFF has him in the fourth. Probably a third-round pick right now. Last year, he only played half the season, didn't produce that much. His big year was the year before. 2021, he gave you almost 1,100 yards on 64 catches, 12 touchdowns in 12 games. So that is the year he's hanging his hat on right now as a prospect. So the cool things about Cedric Tillman are pretty clear. He's big, he's tall, and that's going to help him a lot in these jump ball situations. He's somebody who I think is actually going to be a little bit of a problem to deal with for defenses in the red zone. I think that's going to be something that he's good at. He's actually got pretty good run after the catch skills as well. He's going to make plays in the open field, get the ball in his hands, get him turned up field, and he's going to use his combination of vision and agility to make players miss. Pretty good route runner as well. I think he runs good routes. If you throw it his way, he's going to use his combination of catch radius, ball skills, and hands to bring it in a high percentage of the time. I didn't notice a huge problem with that. And look, he can dominate defensive backs with his physicality. A lot of these receivers that we're going to be looking at are the smaller slot guys. Cedric Tillman is not really that. Cedric Tillman is a guy who's willing to take on challenges like blocking. He can take on challenges like getting jammed at the line of scrimmage. And he's going to win those battles a lot. So exciting stuff with Cedric Tillman there. The issues with Cedric Tillman, he didn't run that many different routes at Tennessee. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. Tennessee ran a non-pro style offense. And it needs to be proven that these guys who excelled in the Tennessee offense can excel in the pros. That's not going to fly in the NFL. Life is easy for the Tennessee Volunteers these last couple years if you're an offensive player for the most part. He also only had the one big year in college. Last year probably would have been a big year, but he got hurt. He missed most of the 2022 season, so we're working off 2021 tape by and large. And it seems like his success so far in his college career has been predicated on just being bigger and stronger than the defensive backs he goes against. He was somebody who was a pretty good vertical threat in college, but I don't know how that's going to translate to the NFL. He's ran a 4.54 40. Is that going to be enough to get behind defensive backs at the NFL? Probably not. So I look at that and I go, okay, is this really going to translate the way that it did at Tennessee? It just kind of seemed to me that Tillman was a guy who kind of just dominated through physical talent, and that gap, the physical talent gap, gets closed in the NFL compared to college. So definitely intriguing. I like some stuff about him, but that 40 time, I know it's not bad for a guy of his size, but I feel like that's a limiting factor here. And I don't know if the stuff he did in college will translate, because a lot of what he did in college was predicated on winning vertically. And 4.54 40, you're not going to win vertically as much in the NFL, I don't think. So I'm not super interested in Tillman personally unless he slips to day 3. If he slips to day 3, take a shot, go for it. The value's good. But before that, Okay, now we have Tyler Scott of Cincinnati. Could not find his age. 5'10", 177 pounds, just shy of 31-inch arms, 9-inch hands. Pretty good combine. 4.44 40, 151, 10-yard split, almost a 40-inch vert, over an 11-foot broad. Like, those are good speed and agility numbers. That tells me that he's fast and agile. Most of the big boards have him in the third, and that's kind of what I expect. Sports Illustrated had him in the fourth, and ESPN actually has him in like the seventh. So ESPN doesn't really see it with this guy, I guess, but I think he'll be a third-round pick. He hasn't had a monster year yet. 2022 was his best year. He gave you almost 900 yards in 12 games, 54 catches, 9 touchdowns. Pretty good. I mean, you got to remember that Cincinnati obviously lost a lot of NFL caliber talent last year, including probably the best quarterback they've ever had at Cincinnati, right? So, makes life a little bit harder. So, Tyler Scott, the pros with him, he's got solid top end speed. He's really explosive. I mean, you look at these combine scores and they tell you a pretty good story about what makes him appealing. He's fast and he's explosive. He's also really good after the catch. He's going to make players miss. He's going to do the human joystick Dante Hall stuff. Maybe not that good, but he's going to make players miss and make yards after the catch. He translates his athletic abilities to route running, by which I mean he can threaten the deep ball, so he'll break off go routes and run inside and get wide open because defenders are so scared of him running deep that he'll just use that to basically turn those underneath routes into easy catches. He mostly played as an outside receiver at Cincinnati, even though he's 5'10 and under 180. So he's proven that he can succeed outside, at least at that level, and he's willing to fight for contested catches. So a lot of positives about Tyler Scott. I would still say, despite the fact that he does find ways to overcome his size, he's still small and weak. He's still going to get physically dominated by some defensive backs. They're going to get a jam on him, and he's going to have a hard time getting off of it, have a hard time getting off the line when he's in press. He does drop too many passes. His hands are not very good, I don't think, for a receiver. Didn't do a lot of work as a slot receiver, which, I mean, he's sub 180. I know he played outside at Cincinnati, and that's great, and he did pretty good at it. But when you're sub 180 and 5'10, you're probably going to be a slot receiver in the NFL. The fact that he didn't do that in college makes us wonder, can he do it? And, of course, although this kind of goes without saying, when you're only 177 pounds, you're not going to win a lot as a blocker most of the time, and he doesn't. So there's a little bit of Tyler Lockett here. There is. Maybe Tyler Lockett with worse hands, but a lot of the stuff about that made Lockett appealing is also the stuff that's going to make Tyler Scott appealing. I just wish he had succeeded more as a slot receiver in college. As it stands, we just have to assume that he can do well as a slot because we haven't seen it yet. I think the third round value on him is appropriate, and once the third round starts, I'm open for business on him. I'm open for business because there's reason to believe he'll be good in the slot and reason to believe he'll be good outside. So one way or the other, you should be getting a pretty good player here. And these athleticism scores that he has are backed up by what we see on the field. So get the ball in his hands, inside or outside, you're probably doing pretty well. So he wouldn't be my favorite pick in the third round, but I'm definitely open for business on him once the third round starts. That's the way I would put it. He's on the list. He's not at the top of the list, but he's on the list. There's enough here for me to say that he's at the very least on that list. Last guy we're going to take a look at in this video is Kayshon Boutte of the LSU Tigers. And this is another guy who's been recommended to me quite a bit over the last couple of months here. Young guy, 21 years old, 5'11", 195 pounds, so kind of in the middle when it comes to size. He's not super small, not super big. 31 3/8 inch arms, 9.5 inch hands. Combine was not very good, I don't think. 4.5 40, 1.58, 10-yard split, 29-inch vert, which is really kind of low. 9 foot, 10-inch broad, 4.25, 20-yard shuttle. So the combine, I don't think, was very good for him. Some big boards really like him and have him in the early half of the second. Consensus, though, seems to be he's going to be in the third round. So I think he'll be there in the third, if I had to guess. Especially because he didn't have big production last year. In 11 games, he had less than 550 yards and 2 touchdowns. Not even 50 catches. So the thing with Kayshon Boutte is that I think the main positive trait he brings, when he gets the ball in his hands, he becomes really dangerous after the catch. He's a run after the catch, get extra yardage, make people miss kind of receiver. And I look at these agility scores, the 29-inch vert, the 10-foot 9-inch broad, and I think that doesn't indicate great explosive athleticism to me. And, you know, the 40 time's okay, and the 10-yard split is kind of so I'm wondering, how is that going to translate to the NFL? It worked fairly well at LSU, not that he ever produced massively, but I don't know. He was very versatile at LSU, I can say that. He was lining up inside and outside. So there is some versatility here, which I like. He was a good deep threat at the college level, at least. He did make his bones frequently through the deep ball. And he can even push his way through tackles. He's somebody who's going to fight physically for every yard. And he ran a lot of different routes at LSU. So there is some stuff to like here. Overall, I think that while his route tree was varied, he does need to get a little bit better with his route running technique. There is a little bit of laziness there. There is a little bit of not being sharp with your cuts. Could clean that up a little bit. I'm a little worried about his speed because he was somebody who was a big-time vertical threat. Well, maybe not big-time, but he was somebody who won with his vertical speed. This is not somebody who's going to win with his vertical speed that often in the NFL, I don't think. So you see it at LSU, but does that mean it's going to happen in the NFL? I'm not so sure. I'm not a big fan of his ball skills. I'm not a big fan of his hands. Just doesn't go up to get it as aggressively as you would like. He drops a lot of passes, partially because of focus issues. And, I mean, the production's just not really there the last couple years. So, a lot of questions with Kayshon here. So, I came away kind of not so intrigued by this guy, I have to admit. The ways in which he had success at LSU kind of, to me, clash. They clash with the ways in which he showed out at the Combine. Now, it's just the Combine. Maybe he had a bad day. But I'm looking at this and I'm wondering, how is he going to do those things at the NFL level? So I think he's a big gamble. And there are enough issues here. You have, on top of that, you have the hands. You have the fact that he never really had a big season in college football. There are plenty of receivers last year who had more yards in one season than he had across the last 2 seasons. I don't know. I'm just kind of put off him a little bit. If he slips to day 3, then, okay, the value starts to become good. But I'm not really interested in day 2 personally with Kayshon. I just feel like you can do better, and there are too many question marks for me to feel good about using a day 2 pick. All right, more receivers coming later today. Peace out. Go Hawks.